I've been told that some of you wish to speak to me of a certain Nazareth. You may come in and be seated. This man you inquire of, my wife has spoken of many times before he was brought to me. But I was not concerned. My wife is a dreamer, and she is given, like so many Roman women of her rank, religious cults. To be frank, such cults are dangerous to the empire. And when they find a path to the hearts of our women, they become destructive. Egypt came to an end when the Hyksos brought to her their one god of the desert. And Greece was overcome and fell to the dust when Astarte came from the Syrian shores. As for this Jesus, I never saw the man before he was delivered up to me as a criminal, an enemy of his own nation and also of Rome. He was brought into the hall of judgment with his arms bound to his body with ropes, as should be for a criminal. A rabble gang in tow, shouting out their condemnation to him. A traitor, one need look no further. I was sitting here in the dais as he walked toward me with long, firm steps, standing erect, head held high. I cannot fathom what came over me at that moment, for it was suddenly my desire to go down to him, as if Caesar himself had entered the room, a man seemingly greater than Rome itself. This lasted but a minute, and then I saw simply a man accused of treason by his own people. And I was his governor, his judge. To my questions, he offered no answers, only looking at me. And in his look was pity, as if it were he who were my governor and my judge. But then there arose the cries of the people screaming out, "This man must go! He is a threat to our security! He upsets our traditions!" But he remained silent, and still he was looking at me with pity in his eyes. I went out onto the steps with the people, and when they saw me, they became silent, as they should. And I said, "What would you have me do with this man?" And they found their voices and shouted out, "We would crucify him. He is the enemy of Rome." And someone, a high priest, I believe, called out, "Destroy the temple? And was it not he who claimed the kingdom? No, we will have no king but Caesar." Oh, such strong words from those who would just as soon see Rome and me gone. So I left them and came back into the judgment hall, and I saw him standing there alone, and his head was still held high. But I no longer felt merciful for him. He was beyond any compassion I might have had. I asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" But still he did not speak. I asked him again, "Have you not said you were the king of the Jews?" And he answered with a much quieter voice, "You say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth." Testify to the truth. Behold, a man speaking of truth at such a moment. In my impatience, I said, aloud to myself as much as to him, and what is truth? And what is truth to the innocent when the hand of the executioner is already upon him? Then this Jesus answered with some force, none shall rule the world except with spirit and with truth. And I asked him, are you of the Spirit? His answer, you also, though you do not yet know it. And what was spirit? And what was truth when I, for the sake of the state, and they, from jealousy for their ancient rights, delivered an innocent man unto his death? No man, no race, no empire could stand before such a truth on its way to self-fulfillment. And I said again, are you then the king of the Jews? And he answered once, you yourself say this. I have conquered the world before this hour. And that alone, of all he said, was unbecoming, inasmuch as only Rome has conquered the world. But now the sounds of the people rose again from outside the hall, shouting as one voice, Caesar alone is our king. This man accuses himself. We demand justice. And the noise was greater even than before. And so I descended from my seat and I said to him, follow me. And again I appeared on the steps of the palace. And he stood there beside me. And when the people saw him, they sounded like thunder, and I could make out only the words, crucify him, crucify him. And so I gave him over to those who had yielded him to me. And I said to them, do with him what you want, and take soldiers to guard him. And they took him, and I decreed there be written above his head, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. And they took him, and they stripped him, and they flogged him. And when the flogging had ended, they nailed him to a cross up on the hill, somewhere just beyond the city gates. It would have been within my power to free him, but surely such a thing would be cause for a revolution. And it has always been wise for a governor of a Roman province not to be too tolerant with the religious scruples of a conquered people. Though I do wonder that this Jesus was more than an agitator. But what I decreed was not my will, rather for the sake of Rome. It was not long after we left Syria. And from that day to this, my wife has been a woman of sorrow. Sometimes, even in our garden, I see tragedy in her face. I am told she talks much of this Jesus with the other women of Rome. Behold, the man whose death I decreed returns from the world of the shadows and enters into my own house. And I ask again, what is truth? Can it be that this Syrian is conquering us in the quiet hours of the night? It should not be so, for Rome against the nightmares of our wives. I am told Sunday next, there is in some places a celebration of all this man has meant to his father. I myself will not attend, but you may do as you please. Yes, yes, you may leave now. Yes.